the downside to making something your entire identity, or like one of the downsides, is that if you lose that thing, then you can be at a loss. Fuck! Okay, can we just redo it like really fast?
Yes.
Wait, are you going to act surprised?
Fuck, you're right. That would be so inauthentic. Guys, Lauren surprised me with Vicky the second we logged in, and I wasn't recording it. Oh my God. Well, Vicky, do you want to help us with the tagline now?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a new tagline?
We make it up as we go along.
Yeah, we make it up. But this time it was, oh, fuck, we'll just do this. Hello, friends.
Hello, friends.
Vicky, say hello, friends.
Hello, friends.
And welcome back to Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast that may or may not be our entire identities. I'm Christina.
And I'm Lauren.
And I am Vicky, your surprise guest.
Yes. Anyway, Vicky, back to how you are, because it's been a while since your voice was on the pod.
Yes, I am doing pretty well. I'm settling in at my new job. Everything's going well, so not too much to report.
Amazing.
Yes.
I miss you.
I miss you too. How the heck are you?
You know what? I'm doing okay. I mean, we can just launch into like, where are you at, I guess?
Sure.
I just got done with IOP, and now I am seeing my individual therapist, and I'm in a 12-week therapy group for queer people with trauma. And it's going really well. And I'm still struggling a lot with the eating disorder. I actually have in my notes ED accountability.
Yeah.
Because like, oh God, sorry, there's a truck. The audacity.
Right? Don't they know you're podcasting?
I know. I need a big sign to put on my roof.
Yeah, podcasting, shut up.
Yeah, quiet on the set.
Quiet on the set. But yeah, the reason that I was a little late, I was telling Lauren, this is the first time you've beat me to the studio, because I had to lie down because I was feeling dizzy because I like smoked weed and I didn't eat, and that was a bad idea. But I ate a granola bar like right beforehand. But yeah, things are going great. Otherwise, I mean, I say that hesitantly. Actually, I'm still waiting to hear back on the disability. It'll probably be like 200 days at this point. That's the estimate they have on the website.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk to you about that, Vicky, because you've been through it. And when we were recording, I didn't really, I hadn't been through that at the time. But now I'm like, oh my God, this is so hard. And I want to hear about your experience, I guess.
I honestly don't remember a whole lot about it because I had a psychiatrist who kind of did as much of it for me as he could.
Bless.
Yeah, so as far as applying, he made it quite simple on me, but I know it can be a really cumbersome process.
How long did it take you to get approved, if you don't mind me asking?
I want to say maybe about 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You must have been fucked up.
Well, so the thing is I was on short-term disability from my work and then stayed off work, and it morphed into long-term disability. And they kind of require you to apply for disability at that point.
Okay.
Well, you can come back on the pod and tell the whole story sometime.
Yeah, I will. But that is kind of what pushed me to do it, is I had to do it if I wasn't ready to go back to work.
Question, was that psychiatrist Metal Sky?
No.
Wait, is that their name?
I had a psychiatrist whose name was Metalski, and my nickname for him was Metal Sky.
Because it's literally how it's spelled.
Yeah.
It looks like Metal Sky.
Do you want me to bleep that out?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
He's not listening.
Okay, but yeah, that's how I've been. My birthday was last week, and this is like the best gift ever. A surprise appearance from Vicky.
Nice. Well, I am going to jump off to run over to Walmart and pick up some boxes and bubble wrap and everything, but
I guess we'll let you go.
Hello.
Yeah.
I love you. And I'm so happy that you came back.
I love you too. We'll have to do this again when I can be a guest and we plan ahead for it.
Yes, but the surprises are nice every now and then.
Awesome.
All right, bye.
Bye.
That was so amazing. Oh my God. I'm so mad that it didn't get the beginning.
I know, that was like perfect.
Well, when I log into Riverside, usually it asks me if I want to start recording when guest appears. And I always had that on. But since you got here first.
Yeah, it doesn't ask me that. It just is like, hey girl.
Hey girl.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to talk about my birthday a tiny bit.
Oh, good. I mean, that seems like something worthy of talking about.
I guess.
Because birthdays make you feel weird. I know.
Birthdays make me feel weird. I've talked about it before. But I went in this year not having a plan, which I highly recommend, 10 out of 10. So last year, I was listening to one of our old episodes.
Of course.
Because I was like, did I talk about my birthday? Because I don't really remember my birthday last year much. And I did talk about it. And I was like, I just get into such a deep depression this time of year. I've been like canceling plans left and right. I'm sleeping all day. I'm doing more drugs. I'm just miserable. And I was like, oh shit. So this really does happen every year. It made me feel a little bit better, honestly, because it wasn't that bad this year.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah, so my sister Bonnie came over in the morning and we went and got breakfast at this cute little cafe in like the art district. And I actually left them my info because I want to work there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But then my IOP friends, one of which is Xavier, who is scheduled to be on the podcast next week. This is the first time I'm telling you this.
Yes. Also surprise guest. Cool.
Yeah. More on guests later. Don't let me forget.
Okay.
But yeah, they texted me and they were like, hey, we're at the beach. Do you want to come? And so Bonnie and I went and hung out with them at the beach. And this giant crab, the size of a baseball, ran over my leg.
Oh my God.
I screamed so loud.
I would too.
But like, it's funny because Xavier and the other person we were hanging out with, they're both like 23 and Bonnie's 24. And so it was just me, like 32-year-old hanging out with these. But it was so precious. And Bonnie got along with them as I knew she would. And the water was amazing. And then I went back home. I ate a veggie burger. This is all very important.
Okay.
No, not really. And my friend texted me to come over. They said they had like a present for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I got there and there's this bike. I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast. I used to be huge into biking when I lived in Austin. It was my main method of socialization and transportation.
Yeah, I feel like you've at least mentioned to me. I don't know if you've talked about it here.
I've talked about motorcycles, but I'm also really into bicycling. And all summer, this friend has been gone, and so they've been letting me use their bicycle. So since they got back, I don't have a bike now. And my parents gave me an old rusty bike that I fixed up a little bit, and it works, and it's great. But anyway, my friend was like, I have a bike for you because someone had dropped it off for free at their house. And the person that dropped it off was like, I want the green one, but you can have the other one. And they're both kind of green. This is an important detail. So like we loaded the bike into my car. I did a test ride. It was so fun. And then the person texted them and they were like, actually, that's the bike that I wanted. So we took it out. It was such a sweet gesture, though. And we went and picked up like a massive order of vegan sushi. And then the last part of the day, I went to this outdoor park to watch the sunset with Bonnie. We were on our roller skates. Mm-hmm. And then we painted outdoors after dark. And then our youngest sister surprised us with like vegan cookies and roses. And it was so sweet. And I cried.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Like a great day.
I know. And talking about it, it's weird. When I talk about good things in my life that are happening, I feel almost like I'm rubbing it in people's faces. It's almost like I'm more self-conscious to talk about the good things than I am the bad things. And that's not normal.
No, I definitely am too. But I'm trying to, now that you bring that up, like name that. Because I'm like, I feel almost, when I do, I feel like I'm almost like discounting the times that things feel like bad and shitty. Like, I feel like everyone, if they hear that, are listening and being like, well, why does she think that her life is hard? Because look at all this great stuff that happens to you. Like, you should be grateful. Everyone doesn't have it that good. And that's what I feel like when I'm talking about a good day.
Exactly. And, this ties into disability too as a metaphor, because now that I'm doing better, I almost fear that it will invalidate my disabilities, even
Yeah.
though the disabilities haven't gone away. They're still there. Like, I'm just not struggling as hard on the outside right now.
Yeah.
That could change overnight, as we know.
Exactly. I'm like, that's the thing with some of this stuff is you are not like constantly like living at the bottom of the well, I guess. It's just ups and downs.
Yeah, if that were the case, I would probably be dead.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a good segue to where you're at, though, because I know you have some good news too this week.
Yeah, finally. So I was finally on Wednesday night able to actually sign the lease. So now I know that I have a place to live. The beginning of this week was not good.
Sorry.
Thank you, random applause people. The beginning of this week was not good because it's just been such a ordeal to get this complete. And, at that point, it had been going on for a while, and it just really was feeling to me like, what do I have to do? Do I have to just give up and start from scratch and find a new place? Am I not going to find a place in time? Do I have to put my stuff in storage and hope a person can let me live in their spare room for a bit and then move somewhere?
You were spiraling on Peach. I was worried about you, low-key.
And I will say, I did like notice as that happened, it's like, yes, I was much more relieved and felt better when it came through and I was able to sign the lease. But I was just like, apparently, imagine this, I can't suddenly just do like a 180 turnaround. It wasn't suddenly like, oh, now life is great. And I don't feel like everything is terrible. It was just kind of like, okay, well, I guess now I know I can survive.
Well, yeah,
take a bit to feel better. Yeah.
That's one thing that worked out. Okay.
Right.
But like, that's huge. That was a big unknown for you.
Yes. So now I just get to be normal stressed because I have so much to get done before I move. But I did schedule my movers. That's a big one, obviously.
Oh, your mover isn't Vicky?
Yeah.
She's
the movers that are going to carry the heavy stuff.
So tell me about how packing went last night with Vicky.
Well,
oh, no.
I think also because that's like, it was so last minute. And this is really, she really wanted to help, which is really awesome of her, of course. And it was the only time that she really could because she's going to be out of town next weekend. So I was just like, yeah, come over. And I didn't think of it until after I said that. And I was just like, I don't think I really have many boxes or anything here because I really hoped this would be my last move for a while. So I didn't save very much.
Fair.
And I went out to try and buy some between like when I got off work yesterday and before when she was going to show up. And they're fucking expensive.
Yeah, that's why like months before I move, I start collecting boxes from like family and friends.
Yeah.
When I worked at Starbucks, it was nice because I had steady access to boxes.
Yeah. I mean, we will get some in at work, but not a ton. So I don't know how much that's going to help me.
But yeah, it's such a stupid thing to have to buy new.
Well, and I think maybe last time, I'd picked up like a 10-pack like to supplement what I had from Amazon. So I kind of knew like what the cost was there. And going out, and I guess I expected like first I went to an Office Depot and I expected I'd find something kind of similar. No, like they don't sell any boxes in like packages of 5 or 10 or anything like that, really. And a single medium box, not even like a huge box, was like $8 per box.
That's criminal.
Exactly.
So, oh my God.
Yeah, I just looked at that and I was like, nope. And then I went home to see if I could order some off Amazon to get started to be maybe like next day. I cannot get a box from Amazon that will be here before Wednesday.
Oh, fuck Amazon.
I know, exactly. But the good news is then I put the call out to all of my band members because I'm going to have practice on Sunday. And I was like, so if anyone happens to have any. And one of them came back right away and said he actually has like the like plastic or vinyl
those
like
bins,
big tubs. Yeah, he's like,
yeah,
I have like 10 of these and you can borrow them if you want. I was like, that'd be amazing.
How did the packing go aside from the box situation?
So since we couldn't really pack, we did more like cleaning out, like
Nice.
throwing things away. Yes.
That feels really good.
Yeah. And it can be helpful, would say, to have someone else there because they can kind of call you on, because I'm really bad about being like, what if I'm going to want this later? What if I'm going to be sad I threw this out? And I feel like she's really good at calling me out on that. Like, really? And I just like you're right. Gone.
I was just talking to a friend about this because I don't really keep like furniture or clothes, but I keep art and books and mementos. Like the stuff I have that I've kept over the years has been with me. I realized I've moved 12 times in my life. I counted it the other day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've probably at this point moved way more than that. At your age, it probably was about 12 times too. It's insane.
I'm also excited though to see like where I'll move in the future. I like moving around. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I have tubs of personal things from like when I was a kid in college. Like, well, part of it is because I write memoir and I have a shitty memory. I keep it to remind myself because each object will trigger a memory.
Yeah, I have a really hard time throwing out anything that I have written. And also, like you, I can tell a story that proves how terrible I do not want to throw out. My books are my friends. I do not want to throw them out.
Exactly.
And I can tell you, because that was one thing I did too, as I was just like, well, I mean, because I have those tall, basic IKEA bookshelves. I have 2 of them hacked full of books.
I've seen them.
I know. I was like, you've seen it, so you know.
You have a great library.
Yeah. And that was one thing I thought is I was like, well, maybe I can downsize a little by going through and getting rid of some that I just, really don't feel like I'm ever going to revisit, have any reason to. I went through every single book in both of those shelves and I came up with a stack of 5.
Yeah, sounds like me. And it's terrible because even though I have so many books, a lot of which, well, not a lot, but there's some I've never even read yet. I can't pass up free books, and I'm always bringing books home from like the free little libraries.
Oh, yeah.
But I also donate some in return, to be fair. But there's piles of books in my room. I need to get another bookshelf.
Oh, yeah. There is a free library just like a block away from me. So my 5 books, I guess I should put them there.
This is such a long tangent.
I know.
But yeah, where you're at.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Relieved, but stressed.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about this week, Lauren?
I believe we are continuing to talk about identity, except now your take on it. Not you, but you, the guests, or the listeners.
The listeners, yeah. Every other week, we ask our listeners a question based on the previous episode's topic, and then we do a whole episode where we discuss. And we got 2 voicemails.
Ooh.
Well, so the question was, do you feel like you have an identity, and what would you like it to be? Because we talked about identity last week, Lauren's topic. And so I thought we would play Jess's voicemail first, since I skipped her answer the last time she responded.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to do that.
I absolutely believe that we all have identities. Hell, I've even made up an identity for my dog. I think that it's always growing and evolving with us. And, if we're going through some shit that's sticking around for a while and we're asked what our identity is during that time, we're going to describe it very differently than when things are going all right. 10 years ago, I would have described my identity in probably a really negative way. It was also one of the darkest times of my life, where now, what I would like my identity to be, which truly I feel like I am living this now, I just want to cement it a bit more, is, that I am kind and caring, that I lead with compassion. I am somebody who will help anybody I can if I'm able. That I'm a mom, I am queer, I'm a mental health professional, an advocate. Some of these things I would never have been able to even fathom 10 years ago, let alone to put that a part of my identity or a hope to have for my identity. So it's kind of a beautiful thing in the way that it can constantly grow and evolve with us.
Isn't that beautiful?
Just gonna say, I loved that. Yeah.
Yeah. You asked me this week if Jess was one of my treatment friends, and I responded, oh, I thought she was one of your treatment friends.
I was going to ask if that was the same Jess you were asking about, because I then had to scrutinize it, and I'm like, I don't think I know this person.
Yeah, Jess, how the fuck did you find us? Was it
How do we know you?
Substack?
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts?
So full disclosure, I think because I was getting everything ready with Vicky, I don't actually have, my usual like notepad to take notes, so I have to rely on my memory, which is shit. But
That's okay.
But I think the main thing that's sticking out to me to talk about more is the comment of like our identity is different based on like how we're doing. Like we would say it's different.
Yeah, that stuck out to me as well. Just the idea of evolution in identity. I was thinking about this, and I think like when you say something is evolving, it's also implied that it's not going to stop evolving. Like evolution never reaches like its final form, you know?
Right.
Ideally, we should all be constantly evolving. And I think that's kind of like a reassurance that your identity will change.
Yeah, because I would imagine like in those lowest points, then that is probably when you are really just kind of like beating yourself up about it more. If that's like you're thinking like, what's my identity? And it's like, oh, it's a terrible person and all of this kind of stuff. But it's sort of like saying like, yes, but this isn't forever and you will feel differently about yourself. Your identity can change because it always is.
Exactly. Yeah, just think about where your identity was a couple years ago. I can relate to Jess on that too, because I mean, I was talking about my birthday last year. I had not yet broken up with Brett. I had not yet come out as queer. I was still in denial about my eating disorder relapse and my depression.
Mm-hmm.
I was working at a toxic job. And also, I wasn't really talking about all of it on the podcast. I wasn't being as vulnerable as I could have been. And to me, that is a huge violation of identity because I like to consider myself vulnerable and open and accountable and all that shit. And so I knew that I wasn't being as open as I could have been. And that filled me with so much shame on top of all the like depression and shame I was already feeling.
Yeah, I can see that because I agree. Just, like me knowing you now over however many years, I know what kind of person you are. And I know you like value like that you can be open and vulnerable about these things. So when I learned that, like when it all started to come out and I realized like, oh, you've been kind of shutting this down for a while. That's probably been hard on you.
It was really hard on me. And Jess, I didn't know you were queer, but that's rad as fuck. And yeah, we did talk a lot last week about like making your mental health advocacy or mental health professionalism your identity.
Yeah.
And also, Jess, I want to hear more about that.
Mm-hmm.
Potential podcast guest.
Yes.
But I didn't talk at all about my queer identity last week. And that's an identity that is evolving way slower than I would like, to be honest. Because like when I came out, I had this brief phase of euphoria.
Yeah.
And then my mental health issues escalated and I kind of had to push it on the back burner. And only now that I'm starting to emerge from this fog, this crisis fog, I am, exploring my queer identity now. And it's really alienating and lonely and scary, but it's also so beautiful. And I never could have imagined that this could be my life just last year.
I'm glad you talked about that now because like even when I was thinking like identity was going to be my topic, then that was something that I thought of immediately because I feel like that is a common response in this day and age is your sexuality and things like that. People immediately think like that's my identity. So I did think it was kind of cool that that's not what our whole topic centered around last week, that we had other things. But I'm glad you addressed it now.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm still figuring it out. Like I started using she, they pronouns last year because I mean, I won't get into it now. I could talk forever about that. But, I stopped wearing so much makeup, like physically, externally, my identity was slowly changing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I guess that's all I had to say about that. But one of our other voicemails touches on that too.
Okay, cool.
Did you have anything else to say to Jess?
Yeah, just that I think we said, up top, I was just like the end of it where she talked about pretty much like her evolution. I was like, it makes such a lovely picture. It gives me hope. I love it.
Exactly. So thank you, Jess. All right, next one is from Orion.
I think that for me, I feel like I have an identity, not when I'm seeking out a specific identity to conform to, but it's more of an accumulation of what I find when I'm out seeking novelty and pleasure and meaning and accomplishment and connection with other people, perhaps, or with versions of myself that I'm interested in. I'm just like exploring archetypes and experiences, and it all kind of comes together in this like museum that becomes who I am. And there's a new gallery every week. There's always a new exhibition, things to see, things to touch, and throwing out like things that I no longer want to have in my gallery of myself. I feel like I established my identity by like rediscovering things that maybe I had lost while I was pursuing other things, or that I got distracted when I was going through a hard time. But now, because of those experiences that I've now overcome, I feel stronger in my identity in a lot of ways, even though it can be easy to feel lost by parts of yourself that you've let go. You can just bring new experiences to who you were. You don't have to be who you were in the past. And obviously, like, I am a transgender person, and obviously like that has become a new like identity establishment for me. But everybody goes through transitions in their life. Like, everybody is in a constant phase of transition. So if you're struggling to find your identity now, just remember it's not a struggle. It's not a battle. It's a natural process that happens to you as you live your life. And you just need to pay attention to yourself and tune in with yourself and say, like, my identity can just be whatever I'm interested in right now, like whatever I'm interested in being. There doesn't need to be a value judgment on your identity. There doesn't have to be a box that you fit into. There doesn't have to be a comparison. You don't need to share an identity with other people. You can. That can be fun if you share parts of your identity. But overall, you or me as a person, I'm never going to identify as exactly the way that somebody else does. It's okay to just have your identity be yourself and the ever shifting accumulation that we are. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, for better or worse.
Thank you so much, Orion, for that voicemail. I have a lot of thoughts.
Me too.
But the first thing I want to touch on is the idea of your identity as a museum.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
That was an amazing metaphor or whatever.
Yeah, it reminds me of something my friend Connor said. Connor has been on the podcast multiple times when I lived in Seattle. And he said something to me once that you need to curate your life.
Oh.
Aggressively curate your life. And I made it into a piece of art because I loved it so much. But yeah, what would be, if your identity was a museum, what would be like the key exhibits?
I'm not sure. And, I'm okay with that answer, actually, based on like my thoughts about everything that Orion said, because it immediately struck me when he said something about it being versions of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where my mind went off. And I was thinking like, yeah, like not only can I think of that, always being the case with me, but what I like and what I feel, like he was talking about is when I was younger, I might have related to the idea of it being versions of myself, but it didn't feel in a natural way. It felt more, like I felt like, here I have to be this, and then I want to be this person. And like then it was versions, but they were not necessarily genuine. It was more like putting on a show.
Yeah. Well, when you're young, also, you kind of have to try on identities.
Yeah. And so that's what I think in the past where I've felt like maybe I have more than one identity, but it's because I am making sure like right now it's going to be this, and now it's going to be this, and I don't want these people to see this one. And I just feel like, I don't know, as I've maybe matured or come into myself more.
Come into yourself, yeah.
Felt more comfortable, then it's more like just realizing like, oh yeah, I don't have to have a single identity because people can be more than one thing. That's just how it is.
Exactly. Yeah, like if you do only have one identity, I don't think that's healthy. And I've definitely fallen into that trap. Like I remember when I started riding motorcycles, this was like the rare point in my life where I was in recovery and not dealing with mental health stuff so much.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do about my identity because mental health had been my identity for so long. And so when I got my motorcycle, I like followed every woman rider I could find on Instagram. I started dressing more like a biker. I, couldn't stop talking about it. That was my identity. And the downside to making something your entire identity, or like one of the downsides, is that if you lose that thing, then you can be at a loss.
Yeah.
Because, when I sold, the times I've not had motorcycles, including right now, it does feel like part of my identity is gone. But I like that Orion was saying you can kind of decide what's in the museum at any given point. You can clean up old exhibits or like shutter them for now, like, or replace them with something new. Like I roller skate now.
Oh, I want to get into that again too.
Yes. Oh my God, you should. I want to roller skate with you so bad.
I was thinking of that. Yeah. Sometime recently I was like, man, I got to look up and try and buy a pair of roller skates. I haven't been on them in so long. I loved it.
Yeah. Or like bicycling. That is an identity that was closed off for so many years. And now it's kind of becoming my identity again.
Getting it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, that makes me think of, like a mental health issue being your identity, because I would imagine that both of us have gone through that at some point. And I've definitely seen a lot of people, in some of the circles that we've we've run in, like seeing people that do this. And I understand, if you are just a person that's kind of like feeling fucked up a lot of the times, and then you have a actual mental health issue that is the reason for that, it can be kind of a relief to know like, oh, there is a reason why. But then I feel like, at least I have, and I feel like I've seen other people do, where then you latch onto it. And that's what, it has to just be like, I'm only talking about people that share the same problem with me. And I'm only talking about my struggles with this. And that's it. That's everything in my life. And
yeah. I mean, it reminds me of the episode we did on labels. And like labels can be great because they can put a face to like something that you've been struggling to articulate, or like diagnoses can be helpful because they tell you, they validate you, and they can get you access to resources and whatever. But I think, as we talked about on that episode, labels can also be harmful because they can effectively like gatekeep others, like, and yourself, like putting a label on yourself and gatekeeping yourself. Like, I'm not allowed to be anything but this.
Yeah, it's like if a label like puts you in a little box versus like giving you words to explain why you are who you are.
I think that was actually the name of the episode. You don't belong in a box.
Yeah, something about a box.
Something about a box.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like he also mentioned his transgender identity, and that is a really obvious connection to make when you're talking about identity, but it's really important still because like there was a time when it wasn't acceptable to have that as your identity. And I think that's why we do cling to labels like that piece of floating wood in the Titanic.
Oh,
it's like finally.
Well, it's the same thing as like some of the others we talked about. It's finally like something explains what is going on inside of me.
Well, yeah. Do you have anything like that?
Like all I can think about is the same thing that I've talked about, I know a few times on the podcast, is like back in my 20s when I got diagnosed as borderline.
Yeah.
Where it was such a relief to me. It's like I remember sitting down with my therapist at that time, and and I'd never even like heard of this, and she just like read all the diagnostic criteria, and I don't know, you have to meet like 4 or 5 out of 9, and I met like 7. So I was just like, just kept hearing these things like, yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me. Oh my God, that's me. And it was just like such a relief. And then of course I find out like all the stigma about it, and people tried to use it against me. And I was like, why did you take away my thing that like explained me? I'm so sad now.
But it's still your thing. And like, no one can take your identity away from you, and no one can define your identity for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard sometimes when you feel like your identity is something that is looked down on.
And really that experience, I would say, was kind of a lesson for me, going through the whole thing then was because people responded like that. And I learned all of that, it was a relief at first. And then I had to learn, okay, it might explain things for me, but it's not all of me.
Exactly.
So I also have to, bring other things into it too, because that's not me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really beautiful that our entire lives we're going to go through so many identities.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of ties into the one comment we got. I'm pulling it up now and putting it in the chat. It's from my ex, Andrew Stevens.
Okay, here we go. I just saw it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, Andrew responded to our Instagram post and said, I had a friend tell me recently that I defined myself by my pain, and I think she's right in a lot of ways. But I brought it up to my therapist, and she said it makes sense to be defined by your pain when you suffer from serious mental illness, and people without that tend to have a hard time seeing why you can't rise above that pain and pull yourself away from its concrete place in your identity. Mental illness or not, our pain is a part of our identity because we wouldn't be who we are today without it. It shouldn't be all of our identity, but it's tough not to define yourself by it when you know there's no real end in sight to that pain, as is often the case with mental illness.
Oh.
Yeah, it's so real.
I know. And I realized as I was reading this, I'm just kind of like, I don't know what I have to say about this still. And it's crazy because this one, was on our Instagram. So I know I read this comment, I want to say at least 3 times this week.
Me too.
Yeah. Because it always made me think. And I'm just like, I still don't know what I have to say about it. But it obviously provoked a reaction.
Well, I think it provokes a reaction because we do define ourselves by our pain.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe more than we'd like to admit, at least for me.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe also because we've tried to sort of downplay that or feel like embarrassed, like I shouldn't be defining myself just by my pain. So it was kind of like reading and seeing why, like, yeah, it's okay and it makes sense was pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, there is a lot of shame. I always feel like a victim whenever I define myself by my pain, even subconsciously. I started a whole blog about my pain.
And I always feel the same sort of thing of like, well, other people have it worse, so I feel like I shouldn't define myself by my pain or my trauma because it's not really that bad. It's not worthy of defining myself by that.
Yeah, but if it traumatized you, it's trauma. If it hurt you, it's pain.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's possible to start healing from it until you own it. You have to own it. And I don't know if that means making it your identity, but maybe it does. Do you think that's a bad thing or a good thing? What are your thoughts?
I don't think it's a bad thing. I was thinking of past trauma and things like that and how, even now I have a hard time figuring out even how this translates to my identity, the thing with my sister's death.
Yeah, you've talked about it a little bit here and there.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things I figured that you would call me out on. Yeah, you don't really talk about that.
Oh man, I'm not doing my job.
But it is because that's a confusing one because it's it took me a long time to kind of even accept yeah, I guess that was a trauma for me. But it's such a weird situation, where I've talked about before, it wasn't a sister that I grew up with as a friend. So it wasn't the same sort of loss, but I'm just but it still was a loss, a big loss for my family. So it was something. I just don't really necessarily to this day understand the effects yet.
Well, and would you consider that to cause you pain?
What
does pain even mean?
Yeah, it's something well, I guess the short answer, yes. And that's another one where it's sort of, years later, I might have in the beginning, I would have said, well, no, because it wasn't a person that I really knew or anything like that. But I know I've mentioned that many years later, I realized, oh, but when I think of it, I feel like I missed out on having the sort of sister that other people do. And that was actually, that was some of the pain, not necessarily I miss this person. It's I miss what I should have had.
And I have noticed that pain in you whenever you make kind of joking comments about being jealous of me and my sisters, or like, I mean, not joking, but just kind of offhand comments.
Yeah.
You do that more often than I think you realize. And I definitely, like, I wish you had a sister too. I really wish that for you. And I think you can still find aspects of that relationship in your friends, but it's not going to be the same.
Yeah. And it's the same thing. You know, my mom grew up, she has 4 sisters and 1 brother. So I think that was kind of like the eye-opening thing to that, as well as seeing them as adults, like how, you know, they all pretty much get along now. So, and seeing that closeness and realizing, like, as an adult, like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have that relationship like right now?
I mean, this might make you feel better. I kind of consider you a big sister.
Oh,
I don't have any older siblings.
That's true.
And like, I sometimes feel pained about that, because I do feel like I was kind of thrust into the world with no role models, and I have to figure everything out on my own, and it's really lonely. And so I love, you know, there's a few older women in my life that have kind of become makeshift older sisters. You know who you are. And yeah, it's beautiful, but it will never be the same.
Right.
Were you vaping?
I was. Just random, super weird thought that I had earlier this week.
Let's go.
Because you said that your dad's 70th, didn't you say it was recent?
Yeah, it was in May.
And I was just thinking about, I don't know, it just got me thinking about like ages really quick, because I was like, that is so fucking crazy when I sit down and think about it, that you are the oldest in your family. I am the youngest in my family. I'm still over 10 years older than you. Our dads are the same age.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
that's
our
wild
parents,
to me.
I've actually heard stuff like that my whole life, because my parents got married in their mid-30s. And so they were always, people thought they were our grandparents growing up.
I mean, I don't know that I've seen many pictures of your dad. Your mom looks really young, so I think she can pass.
My mom looks so much younger now than she did 20 years ago, when she was like dressing like a homeschool mom, like floor-length skirts and stuff. We laugh so much about it. I'll send you a picture of my dad wearing his like cowboy hat. Was that all you had to say about Andrew's comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. That really made us think. Before we move on to housekeeping, I wanted to have a fun little segment where we answer the question, what do you do?
I also realized that you did prepare me for this, but I had so much going on that in the middle of this episode, I was like, oh crap, I really didn't do anything to prepare though. So
it's okay. I'm winging it too.
Okay.
But last week, Lauren brought up, what do you say when people ask you, what do you do? And we had a role-playing segment where I pretended to be Lauren's cousin and she pretended to be her mom. And we answered that question the way we would in real life, which is incredibly insecurely and...
Yes, insecure and awkward, I think is
insecure and awkward, yes. So I texted Lauren a few days ago. I was like, I really want to do a follow-up to that where we answer with how we want to. And I can go first.
Okay.
So what's the setup for this one? You want to be your mom again?
No. I thought of that, but I was just like, I don't think that will lead to a good...
Okay, let's pretend you're like a cool person that I met at a party, and I find out you're in the publishing business and you have a couple podcasts that you produce. So someone that I would want to impress.
You might have given me way too much of a character.
Okay, just kidding.
We're just people that met at a party.
We're just people that met at a party. God. Hi.
Hi.
So, this is a cool song, right? No.
We're so bad at this.
I'm so bad at this. Hey, I like your shirt. That's one of my favorite podcasts. I actually have a podcast myself.
Oh, really? Tell me more about it.
It's a mental health podcast. I talk about my experiences and interview people about theirs. I've been doing it for 6 years now.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, you actually didn't ask me what I did.
I was just about to.
Fuck!
So is podcasting like one of the main things that you do with your life, or is there other things?
Well, I'm a writer. I'm actually working on a memoir right now.
Well, that makes sense. That goes with podcasting.
Yeah. I'm also an artist, and I do pieces centered around mental health.
Oh, cool. Do you have any pictures you could show me?
Yeah, my Instagram is la 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 la.
La 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 la.
Actually, I should give them the real Instagram. It's depressive type.
Oh, cool.
I actually vend at a local business here in Virginia.
Wow. Sounds like you have a lot of talents.
Oh, stop. What can I say? I'm a creative. But what do you do?
Oh, well, I guess one of my main things is I've started playing in a band, which I have done before, and I love all things music. So, I mean, just having the chance to do that and hopefully perform again soon.
Oh, that's so cool. What kind of music is it?
We're doing all covers right now, and it's mostly like 80s and 90s because they're a little older than me, so it's our era. It's really fun music. I love it.
Oh my god, that's my favorite kind of music. Can I book you for my graduation party?
Yes, please. That's exactly the type of shows we want to play.
Yes. Is that all you do though?
No, so I do also like artistic things. So I do write. I do like crafty things sometimes when I get the random inspiration. And I also take aerial classes, which is just kind of a wild thing that I started doing. Is really fun.
Whoa, that's so cool. I think I saw it on your Instagram and I was like, I don't know what that is, but I want to do it.
I never really post on my regular Instagram, which is Lauren AHF. But when I do, it's usually the aerial
Lauren
videos.
AFH.
AFH? I screwed up my own.
I'm a stalker in this scenario.
Yeah, I mean, here's a little secret that you kind of pulled out of me is I'm also super devoted to my pets. So I'm really posting on my dog's Instagram, which is Pico Suave. He's my life.
Oh my god, have you been to Zoomies?
I have. It's so fun.
We should go next week. Here's my number.
Yay!
But that's how I would want it to go.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I was just thinking about, in the context of identity, I feel like I am kind of, what's the word? Outgoing in real life.
You know what was interesting to me when we were doing that is, I mean, obviously we were both putting on a show as the person asking, what do you do? But at least to me, the reactions felt pretty genuine. So
Yes.
it made me realize, we talked about saying you feel like you're supposed to answer with what you do for work. But this suggests to me that people would be genuinely excited and impressed to hear about the things you actually like and who you are.
Totally. And and those are more commonly shared identities, or maybe not common, but a lot of people share your identities. And if you don't tell them about them, how are you going to connect with people and maybe form new friendships?
Yeah, I never felt the need when I was talking to you about what you do to stop you and be like, okay, yes, but what do you do for a job?
Exactly. It's all about,
yeah.
I think it's all about the enthusiasm you bring. And I genuinely do feel enthusiastic talking about the stuff I do that brings me meaning. Whereas I never want to tell people what I do about the way I make money.
Yeah, that I feel almost apologetic about. It's well, I do this because, it makes me a living.
But that was fun.
I'm so glad we did that.
Yeah, listeners, you should conduct a similar experiment this week.
Yeah.
So housekeeping, we have started scheduling guests, which is super exciting. I've also had a few people reach out and say they would love to be a guest, but they don't really know what to talk about. And I kind of want to give a little behind the scenes into how we schedule guests so people know what to expect. Because I get a lot of anxiety over stuff like this. And so I feel like if we explain our process. So after we've talked and decided that you're going to be a guest, I will send you a link to our Calendly page where you can schedule a day and time that works for you. And I have already gone through and made our availability such that we're free. Yeah. So all you have to do is pick a time and date you're free. And then the day of the recording, we'll send you a link to our Riverside studio. And there's instructions on our Calendly page for how to prepare, how to reach out if you need to reschedule or ask questions. It's pretty easy. So yeah, if you're listening to this and you want to take the plunge, message us and I can maybe send you that.
Don't be scared. Be our guest.
Be our guest.
I realized as soon as I said that, I was like, is that an actual line from that song? Because it really
Beauty and the Beast, man.
I know, but just the whole sing song, you don't be scared, be our guest. I was like, that almost sounds like it's actually in the song.
Yeah, but I guess that is Pickles and Vodka for this week. Thank you so much to everyone who listens, and especially thanks so much to everyone who tells us that they listen.
Yes, and who sends us things like voicemails and comments.
And art.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see y'all next week. Stay safe.
Yep.
Bye. If you like what you heard, don't forget to tell a friend about our podcast. You can direct them to picklesandvodka.substack.com, where they can find our entire archive and also get access to our chat. We're on Instagram at Pickles and Vodka Podcast, Facebook.com/PicklesandVodkaPodcast, and YouTube.com/@PicklesandVodkaPodcast. My Instagram is @XtinaJumper, and Lauren is @LaurenAFH. We have a free support group every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard. Go to join.freeconferencecall.com/picklesanonymous. We'll see you next week.